So will the Coleman RSV do 50 miles an hour with less than $100 in parts using the stock carburetor and the stock exhaust? So in the last couple of videos in the series, I added a cast aluminum flywheel, added some timing, removed the internal governor, and then added a 14cc chamber head. And the bike did really close to 50 miles an hour. Oh yeah, that's a lot quicker. First 0 to 30, and we did it in 5.57. So we spent about $54 of the $100 budget so far, and $24.99 of that was for the 14cc cylinder head. So this time around, for the third video in the series, I was wondering if I could get similar results, or even better results, using the stock RSV cylinder head. I'm going to take the stock RSV cylinder head and shave quite a few thousandths off of it to bump the compression, and then I might rejet the carburetor to add a little bit of fuel, and then we'll see if we can break 50 miles an hour that way. Pull this EPA carb off of the RSV. So one of the first modifications I'm going to do is free, actually, which is really cool. I'm going to remove the jet in this EPA carburetor that comes off the RSV, and I'm going to swap out that main jet to add a little bit more fuel, because I think the jet in this thing is super small. So I figured I can get this bowl off of here with a pair of good vice grips. Clamp that down on there, and these will actually pull that nut off. Pull the main jet out of here. So the RSV comes with a 73 main jet, 73 millimeter. So we'll see what that is in thousandths. So 73 millimeter. So it's a 28.5 main jet that the RSV comes with. So I'm going to swap that up to a 77 millimeter main, which is a 30 main jet. So that should help it out a little bit. I mean, I don't want to go too big on this thing because it's only a 196 and it's totally stock, and we're running the stock air box. To drill out that main jet for free, because I don't have an emulsion tube or a low speed, but I think the main jet will help, I'm going to use this 77 millimeter drill bit, which converts over to a 30 jet. If you convert it, 77 millimeter to 30 thousandths, so it's a 30 jet, and I think that'll be a lot more in the ballpark, and it's free. So anyway, so there we go. So now we have a 30 main jet, and you can pick up the 77 millimeter drill bit over at Harbor Freight for just a couple bucks. They have these entire kits over there just for a few bucks. So I'll drop my new 77 main jet down in here. And then I can either use the EPA nut that came on here, or I'll just use a different bolt off another carburetor. So we went from a 73 main jet to a 77. So it's just slightly larger. I mean, I live up here at 3,700 foot elevation, so I can't go much bigger, which I've tried before. And it just doesn't work out on these small 196 engines, at least up here anyway. And that mod was free, which is good, so it keeps us way under budget. So on this carburetor, or the intake box, the air box, I noticed that there's a little lip on there compared to like a Predator intake or a Predator air box. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a lip right there, a flat part on that. And then if you look over here at the Predator, it doesn't have one. It's nice and smooth and round. It can't hurt to knock that off, right? I mean, because we want all the air we can get. So I think I'll take my burr here and smooth that out right there to make it look like the Predator intake, nice and round. I mean, we have slightly more jet, so we might as well get slightly more air if we can. Oh man, look at that. I took a little piece of sandpaper to it, and now it's all nice and smooth. That's good for at least another 5 horse right there. Thing's gonna do 100. And then this air filter here, I think I'm gonna take off this foam. I mean, you know, every little bit helps. And I've run these things with velocity stacks, so I think it'll survive. So I'm gonna take my digital caliper and measure the deck surface on the head, and then I'm gonna take my 100 grit sandpaper on a nice flat surface. So if we measure the deck surface on this head here, we're looking at what, 4 493 thousandths. So if I take it down to around 450, that'll bump what? A little over 40 thousandths off? So that should bump the compression. Got my nice flat surface here. So there we go. So it's nice and flat, because I definitely got to get it flat or you're not going to have a good seal on that surface. Oh yeah. So 452, we start at about 493. So we took off about 40 thousandths. So that'll probably work. I mean, that's close enough. So I started out with 80 grit, and then in the middle I did 100, and then I ended up with 150. So I got a fairly smooth surface on here. So now I'll unbolt the 14cc head and bolt this one on there, and we'll see if it makes a difference. I mean, as long as it's similar, that'd be good. And I didn't do any port work on the Coleman head. So it'll be interesting to see if it performs as well. It might. I mean, the ports might be better in the 196 head. This is a cheap casting. Rocker arms. Push rods. Now use the 22-pound springs out of this head and put them back in the 196. So I'll remove the 22s off of the 14cc chambered head and pop them in the 196. Throw a lash cap on there and we should be good to go. All right, 22s. And then I'm also going to use a set of 1.3 ratio rockers, which cost about the same as the 14cc chamber head. So our budget will pretty much come out the same. So back on with the 196 head and then the 1.3s. And I don't think we'll get valve float with the 1.3s. Throw a little oil on these bolts here, head bolts, so I get a decent torque reading. Torque this head down to about 204. So with the 22-pound springs, I don't think we'll go into valve float with the 1.3s because of the driver driven on this bike. Keeps the RPM down enough, hopefully. Stock 196 push rods. Then the 1.3 ratio rockers. I mean, these might not make a difference at all because this carburetor doesn't flow a lot of air and the exhaust doesn't flow very well either. I set the valve lash on both sides on this at 3. So hopefully the slightly larger jetting will help this thing out. We got throttle. So now I'll bolt on my super high performance high flow air box. All right, there we go. Looks totally stock still. For this head, I can use the stock bracketry again for the torque converter cover. And then my Predator 224 exhaust. And that's about it. So we got about 40 thousandths shaved off the stock head, 1.3 ratio rockers with 22-pound springs. And who knows if it'll go into valve float, which I doubt with the driver driven on here because it'll keep the RPM down. Then we have the cast aluminum flywheel with some added timing. And then of course the internal and external governor removed. And then a slightly bigger or a slightly larger main jet. Oh, another fun part about this build series is I get to test out the nylon cam and the stock rod in the 196. I've been trying to blow one of these things up for like 2 years now. So it's kind of like a durability test at the same time. And as always, I'll be using my Dragy performance meter for the 0 to 30 and top speed. So we get some really accurate runs. So I have to beat 5.57 from 0 to 30. And that was with the 14cc head. And then 48.98 top speed, I believe. So what do you think? Do you think it'll be faster at top speed and quicker from 0 to 30? think I'll run down here and warm up the bike first and see what top speed it has before I do 0 to 30. Like it's going to run just as good as it did before, maybe even better. So we broke 50 miles an hour right here on the flat part, and before I was going downhill through the neighborhood and hit 48.98, so we already beat the top speed. So we knock out a 0 to 30 real quick, and we'll see if we're anywhere in the ballpark. I gotta beat around what, 5.5 seconds from 0 to 30. And that's pretty good. So this thing broke 50 miles an hour with a stock head, which is really cool, with no port work. We'll see what we can do for 0 to 30. That seems like it's pretty quick. There's 30. A 5.77. So I mean, pretty much the same as it was before. Let me do that again. So the bike still did 0 to 30 in the 5-second range with the stock head and broke 50 miles an hour. So totally stock, we did 7.23 0 to 30 and 45.34, which is really good for an RSV stock. Then I added the cast flywheel with a little bit of timing, removed the internal and external governor, and the bike did 6.14, so it dropped a lot from 0 to 30, and then gained some top speed, 48.85. Then I added a 14cc chamber head, and we dropped some more from 0 to 30, 5.57, and then similar top speed, 48.98. And then this time around, I added 1.3 ratio rockers, the stock RSV cylinder head, shaved off 40 thousandths, and jetted the carb slightly bigger, and we did 5.77. So we lost a couple tenths from 0 to 30, but very similar. And then we gained some top speed, 50.46. So we broke 50 miles an hour with a totally stock looking RSV from the outside. And the best part, it only costs $54 to do it. And I think you probably could get these parts cheaper. The only thing that really cost was the cast flywheel, the 22-pound springs, and then the 1.3 ratio rockers. But the jetting and the timing were free. Oh, another cool thing about it is we did over 50 miles an hour on flatland. Last time around, I did 48.98 downhill through the neighborhood. So I know the bike is definitely faster with the setup that's on it now.